Hey friends, welcome back to Welch's Math class. I'm so glad to see you. We're still in Module 6. We are working on percentages again. This time we're still into kind of talking about money. There's a lot of percentages that connect to money, and today we're going to talk about interest. The problem that drew you to this video is a problem where you had to figure out the amount of interest that would be charged, or that you would earn, mostly that you would be charged on borrowing a certain amount of money. So let's take a quick look at how we calculate interest. There's a formula that you'll want to grab hold of. Copy this into your notes. It'll help you figure out how much the interest is. And by the way, before I even go to the formula, let me give you a clear picture of interest as best I can. If you borrow money, okay, and you keep it for a certain amount of time, you won't be able to borrow that money and just pay back, at least not to the bank. You won't be able to just pay back what you borrowed. What they're going to do when you borrow money from a loan company, from the title pond, from the bank, is they're going to charge you interest for using their money for that particular time frame. It's kind of like if you borrow my car for 6 months, I could let you use my car, but I would charge you rent to use my car. And so that's kind of what interest is like. If you borrow my money, I'll let you use my money for a certain time frame, but then I'll charge you rent to use that money. So interest, in a way, is rent that you pay to use somebody else's money for a particular time. Okay, so it gives you a little better idea of interest. Now let's go to the formula. At least I hope it does. The formula, the amount of interest that you're going to have to pay to use someone else's money is going to be equal to the principal. By the way, the principal, that's not the guy that you were scared of in elementary school when you got in trouble. Okay, that's not what we're talking about here. All right, it's going to be equal to the principal. This principal is the amount of money you borrowed, or maybe the amount of money you invested or saved. Okay, but typically, the principal is the amount of money you're borrowing from Title Pond or from the bank or the credit union or someone like that. All right, so that's the amount of money that we're borrowing. We're going to multiply that times the interest rate, which will be a percentage. It'll be expressed as a percentage. Now, when we're doing our calculation, that percentage is going to have to be converted to a decimal. So we have to convert the rate from a percent to a decimal. Really, really important to do that, and so there's a little bit of work involved there. And then we're also going to then multiply that times the time for however long we're keeping the money. And that time has to be set in years. Now, if you're given, that you're borrowing the money for 3 years or 8 years or some number of years, we just put the number of years in. But sometimes they're given the time not in years but in months. If the time were given in months, we'd have to convert months to years. Now, the way we would convert months to years would be the number of months divided by 12. The number of months divided by 12. Okay, all that's good. I know you want to see an example now, though, so let's take a quick look at an example, and you can see how this all works. Okay, suppose we borrow $3,500, $3,500, and our interest rate is 5.5%. And we are going to keep the money for 30 months. Okay, so if that's the case, how much interest will we have to pay to use $3,500 for 30 months at 5.5%? Well, remember, there's some things we've got to do. We can't just multiply straight across here without doing some work. The 3,500 is good. We're good with that figure right there. The 5.5% is going to have to change to 5.5%. Now, all we did here, y'all, is change a mixed number to a decimal, but it's still a percent. So we got one more step to get that percent to a pure decimal, and let's move that decimal 2 places back to the left, 0.055. So what we're actually going to be multiplying by here is the 0.055. So let's pull this down. Okay? And the 30 months, as far as the time goes, we're going to have to work that as 30 divided by 12. Because that's got to get us into years. We got to get into years with those months. 30 divided by 12, I believe that's going to be 2.5 when we work that out. 30 months, 2.5 years. 2.5 years. Okay, so at this point we've got the right numbers that we need to put into our calculator. You know, the calculator, even this antique, it does a great job as long as you put the right numbers in. Yes, that's what we got to do. I'm confident we have the right numbers to put in to figure out our interest now. So 3,500, all right, and then times 0.055, and then times 2.5 equals 481.25. 481.25. So, in other words, if I borrow $3,500, I keep it for 2.5 years, and I'm charged an interest rate of 5.5%, I'm going to have to pay rent to use that of $481.25. So, my total repayment, or total amount due at the end of the loan, okay, the interest is that much. The total amount due will be my $3,500 plus the interest. You got to pay back what you borrowed plus interest, 481.25. So let's use our antique calculator here again. 3981.25. So if the question asks you how much interest do you have to pay, well, the amount of interest you have to pay to use this money is $481.25. If it goes on and asks what's the total amount due at the end of the loan, well, the total amount due is how much you borrowed plus that interest, $3,981.25. Be very careful that you pay close attention to what the question asks, whether they're asking for just interest or the total amount due. Now you go back in a similar exercise, pop into that, work some, practice a little bit, get a feel for how this interest thing works. Make sure that you're asking the people around you for help, your tutors, your instructor in the classroom. Maybe I'm there with you, who knows. I'm glad to help, and I will see you next time.